In June of 2020, 2K and Hangar 13 announced that a remastered version of the Mafia franchise would be coming to modern platforms later that year. As someone who played Mafia 2 back in 2013, I could not be more delighted to get my hands on not only a remastered version of one of my favorite games of all time, but also play the first game in the trilogy, as I was too young when the game initially came out. Now that I finally had the game, I thought it was not only time to play it, but to platinum Mafia Definitive Edition. In order to do that, we must complete the main story on the hardest difficulty, known as Classic difficulty, collect all 167 collectibles. We must also do a bunch of miscellaneous trophies that'll be done throughout the chapter and throughout the actual gameplay of the story mode, as well as in free roam once story mode is completed. By the way, if you ever want to watch me platinum these games live, be sure to head over to twitch.tv/CaptainCrypt, or at least follow the link down in the description to be able to watch me as I do other platinum. Now, onto the platinum journey. Our protagonist, Tommy Angelo, quickly meets two knuckleheads named Sam and Polly, who push themselves into Tommy's idle cab after robbing a store, yelling at him to drive off and get a move on. Tommy obliges and takes them to their destination, Salieri's bar, after carefully losing the cops. To show their appreciation, Sam and Polly throw some cash Tommy's way and informed him that if he would like another job, just to see the Don at his bar. After his eventful night with Sam and Polly, Tommy resumes his cab duties in the city of Lost Heaven, picking up a small number of clients and dropping them off in their destinations. Sadly, Tommy's shift is cut short when a couple of Don Morello's men damages Tommy's car in retaliation to Tommy helping out Sam and Polly, to the point of needing extensive repairs. Desperate and in need of some revenge, Tommy seeks out Salieri's bar to speak to the Don. After speaking to Don Salieri, Tommy is instructed to pay a visit to Don Morello's compound to enact revenge on the lowlifes who wrecked Tommy's cab. It's in this chapter that we also find our first few collectibles and pop trophies to indicate the start of the collectible grind needed to earn the platinum trophy. We earn one trophy for finding our first cigarette card. We earn a second trophy for finding our first pulp magazine. And finally, pop another trophy for finding our first of 50 foxes located in Salieri's garage. After proving our usefulness to the Don, Tommy is offered a job, giving him the ability to leave the cabbing business behind him. Now given the opportunity to participate in our first job, Tommy, Sam, and Polly are asked to collect the money that is due to Don Salieri for the many patrons who benefit from the Don's protection. The job goes a bit south as when we approach a motel to collect our fees, Polly and Sam go in alone while we sit outside with the car and wait for the boys to come back. While we are waiting, Polly comes running out of the motel after being shot. Polly pleads to us to rush into the motel to rescue Sam from being beaten by Morello's men inside the motel. While scaling the side of the motel, we end up finding our first copy of Gangsters Monthly and end up popping the trophy Comic Violence. After killing all of the men and saving Sam's life, we now have to speed down the roadway as one of the last surviving men runs off with the money, hoping to get away. One long off-road car chase later, we catch up with the fleeing men, shooting out the engine of the car and killing the driver. We finally retrieve Salieri's money. So this absolutely hellish chapter begins with a crackpot plan to sabotage Merlot's racer's car before a local race that Don Salieri has money on. Ralphie gives us the lowdown on who to talk to and how we will carry out our mission. Tommy then meets with the guard that Ralphie mentioned and grabs the car that will be involved in the race the following day, and brings it to the mechanic, who will tamper with the engine to ensure that the racer is no longer able to compete. Our own driver has his own issues after he's jumped by some of Morello's men prior to the race, making it impossible for him to compete in the race. And naturally, as Tommy is the whaleman, he is asked by Don Salieri and Frank to jump in the race and win it for him. Now, this race was quite possibly one of the hardest things that I've ever done when it comes to gaming, any sort of achievement hunting, anything like that. It was one of the most ridiculous chapters, achievements, whatever. It was just so difficult for literally no reason, as we had to beat this race on classic difficulty in order to move forward. The controls were all out of whack. It could never stay straight. Anytime you barely even bumped into anyone, it was game over. You had to restart. So, after 10 hours of gameplay and hundreds of restarts, I finally beat this fucking mission. It took way too long, but man was I happy when it was finally done. Luckily, you pop 3 trophies at the end of this chapter. You pop 1 for winning the actual race. You pop another trophy for a missable trophy for taking Polly to a brothel after winning the race while he is absolutely sloshed, called Not Classy. Third, you pop the trophy for the end of the chapter. After a night at Salieri's, Luigi asked us if we could please walk his daughter Sarah home, as he had heard that there were a group of guys who were harassing her outside of her home, and he wanted to make sure that she got home safe. As to be expected, that very pack of guys were waiting for her to come home and begin to chirp at her. Fed up with what he was seeing, Tommy takes matters into his own hands and pummels the gang of thugs until they finally decide to run off. Tommy and Sarah become very close after Tommy protected her. Pissed off at the news that Sarah was harassed on her way home, Salieri orders the guys to send a message to Morello and his boys to show that if you mess with the family, there will be consequences. Seeking information, Tommy and Polly run over to Biff's shop in Chinatown and were told to go around to the corner to find Billy and his boys. After yet another high-speed chase and shooting out the engine of Billy's car, Tommy and Polly approach the vehicle to ensure that everybody is dead. Shortly after pulling off their last hit, the boys were given the news that Billy was in fact the son of a high-ranking city official, meaning all eyes were going to be on the case of his death. Not to mention one of the other men ended up surviving the wreck and might possibly go to the police with the info that Tommy and Polly were responsible for Billy's death. On the day of Billy's funeral, Sam is tasked with taking out the survivor of the crash, while Tommy is asked to blow up one of Morello's main sources of income by blowing up a brothel. Salieri asks Tommy to make sure that one particular prostitute that Sam frequents, Michelle, is taken out, as he is afraid that she may have too much info on the family. Sam then gives Tommy some money to give to Michelle to spare her life, since it was his fault that she was asked to leave town in the first place. Tommy manages to make it over to the church where Billy's funeral is being held just in the nick of time. Johnny, one of the guys who harassed Sarah and survived the crash from the previous chapter, notices that Tommy is in the church and starts shooting. Sam then kills Johnny, and we make our way back to the bar. Now, in an effort to avoid all major spoilers, I'm going to go ahead and pop all of the major story trophies. That way you can actually experience this game for the first time for yourself, as I do believe it is a game that everyone should enjoy and should experience without any sort of spoilers. So, without further ado, now that the main story is completed on the hardest difficulty in the game, it's time to jump into free roam and complete all of the main collectible trophies and do all the miscellaneous trophies that need to be cleaned up. I would like to thank PowerPix, who actually compiled a playlist of all the places where you actually need to go within free roam and Lost Heaven to be able to find all the collectibles in the game and within Chapter Select. Luckily, within Chapter Select, they do actually stack, so you don't have to worry about losing any progress whenever you jump into other chapters. If it weren't for PowerPix, honestly, I don't know how long this would have taken. It would have taken me forever and quite possibly would have never been done. So I will like to thank you. Everything will be down in the description down below. So in Mafia Definitive Edition, there are a total of 80 pulp magazines to find throughout the game, consisting of dime detective magazines, black mask magazines, super science stories, and terror tales. There are also 10 Gangsters Monthly magazines that can be found in the game, again with the majority of them being throughout the main story and the rest being found in free roam. You'll also find a total of 22 cigarette cards centered around some of the main characters of the game, popping yet another trophy in the collection process. Now there is one small collection of items that can be found in one location that nets you one trophy and gets you started in the journey to finish another. If you go over to Bertone's garage, you will see a bulletin board with 6 postcards on it. You will need to collect these postcards in order to pop the main collection trophy. However, you will also need these in order to start looking for the hidden cars that are scattered throughout all of Lost Heaven. There are 3 car collectible trophies in this game. One for collecting 30 cars in your garage, one for finding your first hidden car, and then the second for finding all of the hidden cars in Lost Heaven. After the long and tedious collectible grind, I decided to sit back off stream and pick up the last little bit of the miscellaneous trophies before the final collectible push to earn the platinum trophy. I earned 1 trophy for reaching 50 miles per hour in the slowest car in the game. A second was earned for paying a fine to the Lost Heaven Police Department. Another was secured after lockpicking 5 cars found throughout Lost Heaven. I earned a fairly quick trophy performing a 3-second wheelie on a motorcycle, which honestly took a little bit longer than it should have. And the final miscellaneous trophy acquired in free roam was the not taken in trophy that I earned after resisting arrest from the Lost Heaven Police Department. With all the collections and miscellaneous trophies out of the way, it was time for the home stretch. It was now time to pull up PowerPix's video and search around Lost Heaven to see if I can find all 50 mysterious foxes. Now, granted, if it wasn't for PowerPix, I don't think I would have ever gotten this done, but thanks to his help, it only took me about an hour to find all 50 mysterious foxes, and after we did exactly that, we finally become Lost Heaven's original gangster.